market went down, but not by very much, not by too much.
Well, that's good.
So there's a ceasefire now. Well, they failed it. No, they failed to agree on a ceasefire.
I haven't seen the news today, so I was wondering how that was going to go.
It's easier to start a war than to stop it.
Yeah, we're seeing that in person, aren't we?
There's Bill. He's not. So we've got your board here, and then Doug and Bill remote. I'm looking at them right now. I've got my almost 7-year-old granddaughter with me, and the amount of, the screen is a powerful drug to kids. It's just trying to
Scary powerful.
to read a book. She will, but her first default is to find an iPad. Boy, can she ever find her way around on it and go to settings. It's just
It's second nature to
second
them.
nature to them.
They know how to use it better than we do.
Yeah.
So if you have a technology, you find the youngest person. in the
Find
room.
a 7-year-old, right?
Kim, are you ready?
Board Member Huffman, Board Member Stafford, can you hear us?
Looks like they're both muted.
But they should still be able to hear us.
Doug, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah, Nathan, I can hear you.
Bill, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, this will officially open the public portion of the City of Fairway Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Monday, February 28th, 2022. I'm Christopher Shank. I'm the chair, and I want to welcome everybody who's come to participate tonight, and I want to outline a little bit about what's going to happen. So the first thing we're going to do is the administrative housekeeping thing of approving the minutes, which is a fascinating thing to witness, so you'll get to see that. And then we'll proceed to old business, which was a matter that was set over from our last meeting.
Now we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. You were on mute.
Can you hear me? I think I'm on.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And so what we'll do when we actually take up the matters is we will, first of all, call for a report from city staff. City staff will make a report. The board will have a chance to ask questions of the city staff. At that point, when that's concluded, then the applicant will step forward, and the applicant or anybody speaking on behalf of the applicant will make a presentation. Once that's, and we'll have a chance to ask questions at that time. Once that's over, then the public can speak to the matter. And then once that is concluded, then we will close the evidence, so to speak, and do deliberations among ourselves, okay? I want to let everybody know that I will be participating as chair in the first matter, which is the old business, but I will not be participating in the second matter because certain people that have an interest in that, the Mason Brings specifically, are friends and have been clients of my law firm, so it would not be appropriate for me to be a part of that decision in that particular application. So once we roll to that, I will actually not only not take part, I'll actually physically leave the premises. So that's not to give offense, but that is just the way that the ethical rules that govern myself and this body operate in something like that. So, okay, so with those preliminaries out of the way, I know that the minutes of the last meeting were distributed, so I'll ask the board, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns about those? And if not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, so the minutes are adopted. All right, so the next thing we need to do, Kim, is to take up the old business that was set over from last time. And I want to know, I guess, does the city have any sort of supplementary comments it wants to provide to us regarding that application?
Chairman Shank, no, I don't have any supplementary comments. I do want to just make sure for those that might be listening to the public hearing via Zoom, they'll need to use the raise hand option if they want to speak when you open it up for the public to speak. But I'd be more than glad to recap it, if you think that's appropriate, the application, or...
I think a recap would help
Okay.
us.
All right, so the reason they're requesting a variance, it's to replace an existing legal non-conforming asphalt driveway with poured concrete pavers and grass turf seams that are less than 8 foot in dimension. And that is specific in the code that that's prohibited. This is a secondary driveway. It's not the primary driveway that's on the south side of the property. And this driveway does not meet code. The reason it's legal non-conforming is because it's less than 2 foot from the property line and does not correspond to a garage or another driveway. So you're allowed to replace existing legal non-conforming features like the driveway as they exist, but you can't do anything to increase the degree in nonconformity. By doing the pavers and grass turf strips, that's explicitly prohibited and increases that. That is why they're asking for a variance. And Abby, I don't know if you want to share any of the screen of the site plan, but within the packet, we don't have to do that just yet. You'll see the existing driveway. They had come in to apply for a permit and had poured the curbing, and it was during the permitting process with the contractor that we realized what they were doing wouldn't meet code. There is an example included in the packet from a Pinterest site of a artificial turf. My understanding is Mr. and Mrs. Kellerman were going to use actual grass, but they can clarify. Also included is a site plan from the contractor that shows the pavers and how they would sit on the driveway. And then I will just recap that, excuse me, let me go back to my report. Staff does not think the request meets criteria 3 and 5. Should the BZA grant the variance, staff recommends the following condition: 3 complete sets of plans submitted for review and approval, building permit obtained and fees paid as required by code, project complies with city ordinances, application and approval are void if a permit is not obtained within 1 year from the date of the BZA approval. Just so to note, 3 and 5 on the criteria are the strict application of the zoning regulations constitute unnecessary hardship, and 5, the granting of the variance will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the zoning regulations. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Kim, were any affected neighbors notified?
Yes, they were all, it was properly noticed, and the certified letters were mailed out. I'm still waiting on 4, but I will tell you, I hate to put it on the record, the postal system isn't quite working. We're finding lots of delays, so I did get all but 4 back.
And so any opposition?
I have received no comments.
Any questions by the board of Kim?
Yeah, I have one question. This is Doug Huffman, if I may, Chris. Kim, could you comment on that curb that's built in there? Is that part of the nonconformity, or is that the curb that was built?
Yes, I did not comment on that, and I would probably let the Kellermans address it. I don't think it was there before.
Right. It's not original. It looks like it was started and then construction was stopped.
Yeah.
But is that part of the variance request? Or is that not part of this?
I would consider it all part of the site plan that they presented. The curb, I think, is where the existing driveway was originally, but Abby believes it was a landscape edging that was there prior. So I would consider it all part of this site plan and the variance addressed.
All right, thanks.
Kim, Bill Stafford. Have we received any additional information as to actually what they're trying to construct as far as design details?
In terms of design details, are you talking about specific materials or the design layout of the driveway?
What I'm talking about is that a driveway typically is three-dimensional, and what we have is a two-dimensional picture of the top, what it's going to look like, but not what it looks like underneath.
That would be, excuse me, Board Member Stafford, that would be in the permitting process when they apply, if the variance is granted, and Community Development Director Basil Alani would be reviewing that to meet the criteria for the actual materials and installation. It would not be part of what the BZA is reviewing.
Okay. I still have a concern in the fact that I have not been able to have the board, I'm trying to word this correctly because I didn't word it correctly before. This application is a landscaping application that they want to use for a driveway, but you haven't got any information that's been presented to the board showing that it's applicable for a driveway.
Any other questions of Kim from the board? Okay, well, hearing none, I think one of the reasons we set this over was because we were unsure when we last considered the matter whether the Kellermans had proper notice and an opportunity to participate. So given that concern, the board decided to set it over to give them an opportunity to speak about this. So is anybody here to speak on behalf of the application? Please come forward and give us your names and address.
Thank you. Hi, Amy Kellerman. This is my husband, Mark. I live at 5616 Cherokee Circle in Fairfield. So the first thing we want to address is the curb. So if you zoom in on the pictures that you were provided of the existing, the old, dilapidated driveway, you will see there was a curb there.
Hey, Chris, sorry to interrupt. I can't really hear.
Can you hear if I lean in?
That's a little better.
Just to
Do you hear, Bill?
No, I can hear nothing, no.
Yeah.
We're turning up the volume. Can you hear better now?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. So the first thing we wanted to address was the curb. So if you look at the previous picture of the dilapidated driveway that was existing, if you zoom in, you can see there is actually a curb there.
So it's not new.
It's not new. The curb was existing. So just to put minds at ease on that
Okay.
extra non-conformance, I don't think that applies.
It was just made out of asphalt.
Concrete. We did think that the previous approvals that we've gotten through City of Fairway for our pool house and pool house patio included this driveway, which we will mostly use as a walkway, but we wanted to also use it as a driveway in certain, sort of cases where we have extra parking on the street and get them off the street, or if we have extra cars, we can park on that area. It's mostly used as a walkway. So we thought that the walkway wouldn't have to require a permit. But then when the plans were submitted as a driveway, then there was confusion, which is what led us here.
So what would help us is to walk us through the 5 criteria
Sure.
that we need to decide the variance, because under the statutory guidance that we're given, actually it's a directive we're given, we can only afford that relief if the 5 criteria have been met. So if you could focus your comments on that, that would be probably most helpful to us.
Sure, and you want me to do all 5 or the
I think
2?
we have to find all 5, so I would go ahead and do all 5.
Okay, sure. So the first one is that the variance requested arises from such a condition which is unique to the property in question and which is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district or is not created by the actions of the property owner or applicant. And what our response to that was simply we intend to replace the current legal non-conforming dilapidated second driveway with a more modern and aesthetic driveway, in our opinion, that is wheelchair accessible and matches the green space that was previously approved for our backyard. The intention is to use this generally as a walkway to our pool, but may be used for additional off-street parking if needed. In order to do so, we seek your approval to update and modernize the driveway in poured concrete pavers with grass seams instead of a solid concrete surface. Number 2, that the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners. Currently, the proposed driveway is relatively non-visible portion. It's simply replacing a current legal non-conforming to a more aesthetic and green driveway that allows multiple uses. After talking with our neighbors, actually they felt better about the new driveway versus the old one. And they had no concerns about it. And we're actually quite excited that the design will, and the newness of it will make actually their property look better too. Number 3, the strict application of the provisions of the zoning regulations of which the variance is requested will be unnecessary hardship to the property owner. I think you said that you disagreed with this answer or found it non-compliant or whatever, but I don't know what hardship. The hardship that we would have on the property owner is that we would have a solid surface driveway instead of something that matches what we have already built in our backyard as a patio area. And so we just don't get what we want, and we're going to put a big cement driveway there instead of our paved squares. The 4th one is the variance desired will not adversely affect the public welfare. Not sure how that would happen. The variance would not impact the public at all. We ask for approval to replace a current legal non-conforming second driveway into concrete pavers instead of solid surface. The code does not allow that, hence our request for this variance. And then the 5th one, the granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the zoning regulations. So the request for variance is to simply have it more modernized look than an environmentally responsible than a solid surface area.
Thank you. Thank you.
questions?
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we invite
I
questions?
was just going to ask if you could show the other picture of the, yep, that's the curb. And then this is a Pinterest picture, but it sort of represents what we had in mind. Not that many squares, not that wide, of course. And then, did you have a picture of my, the backyard? I thought you had that in the previous. So so it's 2 squares wide. And the seams, I think there was some concern that the seams on other properties in Fairway were wide and long and not aesthetically pleasing, but these are literally 3-by-inch strips between 3-inch strips between the squares.
Thank you.
We also, sorry, one more thing. As far as the construction, they'll be each square will be 6 inches deep and constructed with rebar. So the construction is that it will hold vehicles.
Okay. Thank you. So now, does anybody on the board have questions of the applicants?
Well, I have a question, and it goes back to this curb. You indicated that this concrete curb was there before?
The driveway had there's an existing driveway with a asphalt curb. Now it will be
An asphalt curb, okay.
The driveway before was all asphalt, including the curb.
And so now we would be replacing it with a cement curb and driveway.
Okay. And how often do you park cars back there on this second driveway?
If we have a pool party or something, we might have some folks there, but generally it's us and folks either park in our other driveway or on the street. This just gets folks off the street a little bit. We do have some neighbors that do have some high school kids that now have some cars too, so this kind of helps with congestion if there is a need.
It's hard to say, but mostly we would park on this if we were bringing something or delivering it or workers are back or something like that. So it's probably once a month. I don't know. It's not a regular parking spot.
So you also want to use it as an access to your pool house and everything that's back there on that?
Yeah, so if you just watch this, if you look at this picture, if you walk up this driveway, there's a gate there you can see, and right behind the gate is the pool.
Right.
So people walk through that way.
And I recall when you also had to get a variance for what you were doing with your pool.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicants?
I have just a quick, sort of a curiosity. So this is what you guys have. I must have missed the meeting when you guys had your pool meeting. But what grows in between the two? I mean, is it grass?
Grass.
I mean, and it grows okay in that 3-inch?
So far, so good.
Okay. Okay.
Well, and we'd have no interest in having it not grow and look great. So if it does, we'll revert to turf in those seams. But in the backyard, we have similar seams on a patio area, and grass has grown actually quite nicely.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicants? Okay, well, thank you very much. Is there anybody here on the public to speak concerning this application? Yes, thank you. Anybody here on the public? Anybody raising hands? Okay. Okay, so this will close then the public portion of this, the evidence portion, and so I guess now is the time when we consider this as a board. So I guess I will. I guess I'll start with Doug Huffman since he is the farthest away.
Okay.
So, Doug, I'd like to get your thoughts on this application.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one carefully, and I actually think they meet all 5 criteria. I know there were some questions about number 3 and number 5. Number 3 is the hardship, and if we deny this, I think it would lead to a worse option that I'm supportive, given it's primarily a second kind of walkway, rarely used parking area. So I think it would the hardship would be leading to a worse option, that this would look better than just a concrete driveway. And then the spirit, once again, yeah, making it better, I think fits the spirit of the ordinance. So on number 5, I think they do meet that too. So I am supportive. But I know that may not match everybody's thinking, but I'd be interested in hearing others.
So Amy, would you like to speak to it now?
Actually, I'm glad you said that, Doug. I have to agree with him. I think that that number 3, it's going to be, the solid concrete will be so different from the rest of their patio. And this is going to look better. And it seems like they have a track record of what is able to grow and look good within these concrete blocks. And I agree with Doug that with number 5, that it is working to improve rather than just have a solid block of concrete. So I would say they meet the 5.
Patrick?
Well, I don't think it meets all of the criteria. I'm uncertain as to whether aesthetics alone and not meeting your personal preference is a hardship. But, these folks are here, they've done a great job with everything else they've done, and they're asking this in good faith, but I still think that they've not met their obligation on this.
Marcia?
I feel like the use of as a driveway is a concern because it's in direct conflict with the code as listed using pavers. As a walkway, I think it would look much nicer, and I agree with that, but being used as a driveway, I think it does not comply with the code.
Bill?
I guess they provided a couple of pieces of new information. One was the thickness of the pavers were 6 inches thick, which alleviated one of my concerns. And the comment that they were going to be using it for occasional parking. And maybe I'm nitpicking the wording, but parking is different than a driveway. So if they would just wanted to put a walkway in and decided to park a car there, would that be a violation? I can't see where that would be a problem if they just simply called it a walkway. So I don't have any concerns with what they presented. I think it meets the criteria.
Is it going to look like people are parking on the grass, though?
Well, they're going to park on the road, they said, most of the time. If they had some overflow, that would be to put them off street would be a positive from a traffic standpoint. So it sounded like what they presented was, we want to build a walkway out of these pavers, and if we have a big party, occasionally pull some cars in. And maybe a maintenance truck once a year or something, because the pool doesn't get a lot of, they're not like they're delivering things. So I think we may be nitpicking with that being a driveway. I think it's more just an occasional off-road parking space with being mainly a walkway.
So I agree with Doug. I think that the 5 criteria have been met. I think that when you come up that street and you look at that driveway, either as it exists now or what it would be if we didn't grant the variance, I think it would be a material adverse event to that neighborhood, and certainly these landowners. So I think it's probably within the spirit of the of our group here to grant this. I don't see any great harm coming from it. I concede Patrick's point. I understand the point he's making, but I think on balance, it's probably the kind of thing that the the code is designed to address. So I would be in favor of granting the variance request. So I think now we kind of have the issues decided. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve the variance as presented, subject to the conditions that have been imposed by the city in its report. So is there such a motion?
Yeah, I would make that motion, Chairman Shank, as so moved as you described.
Is there a second?
I will second.
I'd be glad to second that.
Any further discussion? And I think we better call the roll on this one.
Board Member Downs,
In favor.
Board Member Viderenders,
In favor.
Board Member Burlau, Board Member Stafford,
In favor?
Board Member Huffman.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay. So that takes care of that. And now for the next item of new business, I will be leaving, and Patrick Viderenders will be taking over as chair. And I thank the Kellermans for a very nice and presentation that focused on the right things. So it's always great. Okay.
Guess I need to turn this on. Okay, we have a second business here, tonight's new business. And could our clerk please read the report?
Yes. So this is an application. The applicant is proposing an 826 square foot addition on the rear of the home. The addition will encroach about 15 feet into the rear setback. Part of the existing home encroaches into the setback by 9 foot 3 inches, and the existing deck encroaches 15 feet. So this is a variance that they're asking for to encroach into the minimum 25-foot rear setback. Abby, if you could pull up the site plan, please. Applicant submitted responses that address the criteria for the variance. It was noticed in the legal record. The property owner mailed the certified notices of the hearing to property owners within 200 feet. I think I'm still waiting on a couple notices from that. 2 neighbors have stopped by City Hall to look at the plans. The neighbor to the north has expressed concerns regarding the increased watershed and headlight glare as vehicles come down the proposed driveway from Wyncote to the new garage. I did include in your packets a letter from their attorney, and I believe they are here tonight also. I also received an email today from Marianne Erbs, E-R-B-S, and maybe that email's incorrect. The property owners are Jay and Marianne Jackson at 3610 Wyncote. As I'll go ahead and read this in. As the neighbors of the Mason Brinks, we share their concern particularly for the potential water runoff from the property renovation of our neighbors, which could affect their property. We ask you hear their concern and feel free to contact us if you need verification. So those are the, in terms of who staff spoke with. Staff's recommendation, staff is not convinced that the applicant has met criteria 2 and 3. Should the BZA approve the variance, the applicant will need to provide 3 complete sets of plans, a watershed analysis as required by City Code 15-235B 317, building permits obtained and fees paid, project complies with all city ordinances and the IRC, application and approval void if permit is not obtained within 1 year of the date of BZA approval. And just to recap, items 2 and 3, item 2, the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners. And 3, the strict application of the zoning from which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship on the property owner. And I would be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Does any members of the board have questions? Mr. Huffman?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. Mr. Stafford?
I have no questions.
Ms. Downs?
No, I'm fine.
I'm fine too, thank you.
Okay. Having no questions, I guess we can now go to the public area and get testimony from the concerned parties.
Good evening. Clint Evans, NSPJ Architects. Basically, the addition that we're looking to do is 37 feet by 22 foot 6 deep. It does align with the backside of the current improvements of the home. Going through the variance items 1 through 5, to clarify those, number 1, the variance request arises. As it's a corner lot condition, the addition will enhance both street frontages for the home and actually improve upon the design of the original house. It's a bit of a mess condition that they worked around some older retaining walls and just kind of built the deck before the clients bought the property. And so they're looking to aesthetically improve that condition. The granting of the permit, item number 2, for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of the adjacent property owners. The owners have spoken with the property adjacent and gained their approval from that neighbor. Headlights, any headlight concerns can obviously be addressed with additional architectural screening, landscaping, etc. And water runoff concerns, actually this improvement will improve upon the current water runoff because the entire house right now is surface drained with its gutter system. Any new improvements around the entire area will be taken underground. So the improvements will actually leave the property in a better state from a water runoff situation. Number 3, that the strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance, which the variance is requested, will constitute an unnecessary hardship. Without the variance, the owner would not be able to expand the home to the edge of the deck and would limit the efficiency of the home. Everyone enjoys having a garage for their property. This home does not necessarily right now, and it does in the rear, but it's very awkward to get in and out of. It's one of those old original garages. It's pretty precarious to navigate with vehicles, and so this would improve not only the property value of the home, but the aesthetics as well. Number 4, that the variance desired will not adversely affect the public welfare. Again, we do believe that it will strengthen the curb appeal on both sides and allow it to look even nicer with the home surrounding. And item number 5, that granting the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance. The proposed addition, again, will not encroach into the setbacks any more than what currently exists.
So what you're proposing is just this addition and the garage underneath.
Mm-hmm. And it's all one, item where the garage, we're utilizing the roof as kind of an improvement for an actual terrace.
And then also, I note that you're doing away with the driveway going to Mission Road.
That is correct, and that is a life safety issue for the homeowners. It's just precarious. People fly around those corners of that street, and it's just dangerous. So by directing the entry to the property onto the side street, it's going to be a lot easier ingress and egress for the property.
Mr. Huffman, do you have any questions?
Yeah, but it may be for Kim, actually, to just get clarification like that. The application says you're requesting the 25-foot, rear setback, but Kim, does that include the driveway? Is that part of this request, or is that something that we're not looking at?
I'm going to let zoning council Kirschlich address that.
Okay.
Yes, the driveway is not subject to the BZA's approval. You are considering a variance for the addition. However, you do have the authority to address any conditions, and you can add conditions beyond those that are identified by staff as long as they relate to the addition that is the subject of the variance. So, for example, the architectural screening that was mentioned that could screen headlights, that would be a possible condition because the use of the addition to which the variance applies is for a garage.
Okay, so that you're saying that could be something extra we add, but we are presented with the garage, the addition part encroaching into the rear setback.
That is correct. The variance that is at issue is for the addition only. It's not the driveway.
Not the drive, okay. Got it, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Huffman?
No, that's all my question.
Okay. Ms. Berlau, do you have any questions?
I have no questions at the moment.
Okay. Mr. Stafford, do you have any questions for the witnesses?
I have a question with regard to the headlights. And first, I want to say hi to Clint. I've seen and talked to him for quite a while. The driveway shown on this map that is on my screen is existing. Is that correct?
State that again, Bill.
The driveway and the turnaround on the front.
Yes, that is correct.
Is that existing or is that proposed? That light gray color?
The light gray color is proposed.
All of it is proposed.
Correct.
So where is the existing driveway?
Do you see over there on the right, it says existing drive to
Okay,
Mission?
so the
and that's
existing
dashed.
driveway is coming in off of Mission Road.
Correct.
And the concern about the lights would be that they would be coming off of the side street. And apparently there's a home.
On lot 16?
Is that lot 16? Lot 16 that the lights may shine upon. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. With Mr. Evans' comment that could be addressed in the final plans, I have no further comments.
The homeowners are both here on either side of me too, just in case there's any questions for them.
Okay. Ms. Downs, do you have any questions?
Does it involve taking out a lot of trees?
No, based on the current survey, you'll see the trees that are existing on the property. Basically, there would be one near the street that would be coming out, and then the others would be pruned accordingly.
The tree closest to the street, you're telling me, is coming out?
That one on Wincote, there at the front of the driveway.
We will need to get clarification if that's a right-of-way tree. If it's
Okay.
within 10 to 12 foot, there's a process to
Sure.
go through on that.
Got it. And then also too, the drive can be adjusted as well, the location of the drive entry, to avoid that.
I guess I have a question at this point. The new drive that goes down that steep hill, are you making a cut in there, or how are you addressing that?
Yes, that is actually something that is going to be reworked with some slight you know, sloped drive to the side, and then underground drainage around the drive.
Thank you. Has this brought up any other questions by any members of the board?
Yeah, I have one more question there, Chair Wiedemeyer. Where on the drawing is the existing garage? Can you point that out a little more clearly to me, or am I missing that?
Board Member Huffman, if you'll give us just a minute, we'll try to pull up the existing site plan.
And I have them in front of me on my computer too, but yeah, maybe I missed that, yeah.
It's those French doors. If you look at the back of the 3D, it's those French doors down on the lowest level. Those are being shown as French doors, but that's an infill of the garage door.
Oh, the current garage is underneath there.
Yeah, that's correct. And there's an existing deck over that right now that we would actually be removing because architecturally it just doesn't look good with the house.
So these new garages and the decks over the top, that's the new part, right? That's what we're considering. Got it. Okay, thank you.
I had an additional question. The double entry onto the side street, is that just for convenience? I mean, it looks like you could have a straight driveway back to the garage if there were issues with trees or something else. Is that not correct?
I mean, yes, it is for convenience. Whenever people are over, it takes street parking off the street and actually onto their property.
Okay.
I have yet another question. Now, on this picture, the single-car garage and the deck on the, what would be the west side, are the same distance as they are at the present time?
With the existing decks at the back of the house, yes. Okay. That deck off the kitchen area on the other side aligns.
It's the same distance, it's 15 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, correct.
And is that one existing? That did, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually runs all the way behind the back of the house, and we're actually cutting a large portion of it off over the original garage door.
Maybe you're talking about the part above the garage exists today too. So both sides of that exist.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Are there any other questions from the board for these witnesses? Does any of the witnesses want, any of the other people here wanting to say something on the applicants?
Outside of just the driveway, we do not currently, because of the way our lot sits, we don't really have a backyard. And so for us, we would like to, where there's a current driveway, that would be removed, allowing more green space between us and lot 16. And then also to the back of the house, we'll at least have a little yard, which we don't currently have. Car access. It's that driveway takes up this part that we have. Correct.
And so you'll be removing the present driveway to get into the present garage?
Correct.
Okay. So do you want to testify?
No, I think she covered it all.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who wants to testify in opposition? Please step forward, state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, can everyone hear me? On Zoom, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Shannon Marcano. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am with Local Law LLC. My address is 10650 Row in Overland Park. I am here tonight on behalf of R.C. and Judy Mason Brink. They are here. They are the neighbors to the north, the immediately adjacent neighbors. A quick bookkeeping matter. Kim, I don't know if you got a letter. I heard you say you got an email today. Did you get a letter from Suzanne, Aaron, and Joseph Levin? Because I've got a copy of that for the record if you don't have a copy. Okay, great. Nope. Nope, no problem. Okay, thank you for that. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I know this is a free night for everybody, and we do appreciate your service to the city. These boards are not easy to sit on as you have to make the tough decisions. So we do appreciate your service. We have submitted a letter in opposition of this variance application. I hope you all have a copy of it and have had a chance to review it. The Mason Brinks are of the opinion, as am I, that these applicants cannot meet any of the 5 factors. I do go through a pretty thorough analysis in the letter. I know it is pretty lengthy. I won't go back through the entire analysis, but I also hope that you all have had a chance to stop by the property. I know we've looked at a lot of pictures and a lot of site plans, and for me, it's really hard to see, as an aerial view, how the property feels. And I think that's really what we're here to talk about tonight, is how does this property feel? I will run through the 5 factors, but there is a great deal of slope between the applicant's property and the Mason Brinks property. The Mason Brinks sit very far below, and there is no question at all that this project will have a very significant impact on the Mason Brinks property. So really, we know the key to a variance is the 5 factors. It's set out by state law, and it's set out by your ordinances as well. If you can't meet all 5 factors, you cannot get a variance. Again, the Mason Brinks and I believe that none of the 5 factors can be met here. Your staff has called out number 2 and number 3 as being especially problematic. Number 2, as you'll remember, I'm sure you're very familiar with them, is that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of the adjacent property owners. And then number 3 is that the strict application of the zoning regulations from which a variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application. I've presented this exhibit. It is in your packets, but I've asked Kim to show it on the screen tonight because I think it's really hard to tell from the applicant's materials how these properties relate to each other, especially when you look at factor number 2. There's no question that this project and the granting of the variance will have a very significantly negative impact on the property owners, the Mason Brinks. They live here. They live this property every day. One of the problems with the variance and with what is happening with this project is they are shifting the activity from the rear of the property even closer to the Mason Brinks. You can see the Mason Brinks existing house is at an angle. And so by bringing the expansion to the east, it's actually not only increasing the encroachment on the 25-foot setback, but it's increasing the activity that's going to impact the Mason Brinks property. And again, with the existing encroachment, we don't really know. I wasn't able to get any information as to whether that was approved, wasn't approved, is it a legal non-conforming use? But I do know it's not a good idea to increase an existing encroachment. One of the things we also need to think about is the water. We've talked a little bit about landscaping. There are a lot of mature existing trees on the neighbor's property. I don't know how many they're going to take out. Again, site plans and elevations can show a pretty picture, but really until you go experience the property, you can't really know what's there and what's going to be lost. Those trees are old. They've been there forever. Even screening installed today won't have the same impact. It'll be years and years before those trees would grow big enough to have any sort of screening impact on the Mason Brinks property. The Mason Brinks kitchen is on the south side of their house. That's where the activity happens. That's the heart of the house. And so while we know the driveway is not a part of the variance application, we do know that the granting of the variance opens the door to this project. We know that the realignment of the driveway is going to increase traffic straight down that hill towards the Mason Brinks property. And again, Granting that variance is going to allow that activity to occur a whole lot closer to the property line than it currently does. Again, all of this has a significantly negative impact on the Mason Brinks. And this is, in fact, one of the factors you have to find is met. You have to find that the neighboring properties do not suffer an adverse impact when the variance is granted. And I just don't see how we get there tonight. Now, number 3 is the hardship question. I know we talked a little bit, the applicants talked a little bit about how they don't have a backyard. This lot is oddly shaped, but the odd shape of the yard doesn't prevent them from expanding in a different location. It doesn't prevent them from using their lot. It doesn't prevent them from having a functional, beautiful house on this lot. This lot is cool. I mean, it's a lovely lot. But they do have a whole lot more space than I believe the applicant made it sound like. I am happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, we do think that all 5 of the factors are hard-pressed to be met here this evening. I think I would say that really, again, this part of town, the city of Fairway, and especially this part of Fairway, is just beautiful. It has a neat aesthetic. It's different than anything you see anywhere else really in town. And when you start chipping away at these regulations, these 25-foot setbacks, any of the bulk regulations that kind of tell you where a property should be built on, you start chipping those away and you really start chipping away at the character of the neighborhood. You start impacting one neighbor, then another neighbor, then all of a sudden everybody's doing it, and you start to lose that character that Fairway is known for. So, I think this variance, I understand why the applicants asked for it. I think it's a bad idea, and I think legally there's no way we get there this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, this is Bill Stafford. I do have a general question. If the applicant were to have the driveway only from Mission Road, that's relatively parallel to the house, so that there's no lights, new lighting going to the neighbor's property, would that satisfy a lot of the criteria, with the lighting issues that you've mentioned?
Is this question for me, Shannon?
Just a general question, and whoever can answer it.
I'd love to chime in on it.
A lot of the questioning has to do with the driveway coming in off the side street with the lights going right into the kitchen. However, if they just kept the existing driveway, those lights would no longer be focused toward the kitchen.
Sure, I understand, and that definitely would have a mitigating factor. I think the bigger concern is the location of the expansion. And I think the way the expansion is being proposed, this house starts to loom over the Mason Brinks house. You've already got the slope differential, and then you've got this addition. The existing house is close enough. Now you've got an addition that makes it even closer. It's big. It's big. It's going to feel big. And I think it completely changes the character and the relation between the two lots. So while the relocation of the driveway may mitigate things, it definitely does not alleviate the concern or the negative impact, which is one of your statutory factors for this variance.
If I could build on that, or Bill, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, so I was trying to get clear in my mind. I'm not really thinking about the driveway because they can do the driveway without this board considering it. That's really not the issue that we face. So on number 2, the main issue is the new garage. And if I understand your claim correctly, it's that the adjacent property owners are most concerned about the larger garage and decks in that area. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the further encroachment into the setback with a structure completely changes the Mason Brinks experience and their property.
Okay.
The existing property, there is an encroachment, but it is not as close to the Mason Brinks property or to their house. So this proposed expansion completely changes that. It changes the game, and it definitely not only increases the encroachment, but the encroachment is actually closer to their house.
Okay. Would that new construction affect the water runoff, or in what ways? I know we don't have a hydrology analysis here, but what's your view on the water, not considering the driveway, just the
Yeah, if
issue
you don't
before
mind.
us,
Let me-
the new
yeah.
construction.
I will speak to the Mason Brinks concern first. I do understand the applicant wants to respond as well. The Mason Brinks are concerned with any sort of hardscape that goes on this property, whether it's the driveway, whether it's increased hard space that happens with the addition. That is not water soluble. And so while they may be able to deal with the water on site, there are rain events where there are water issues already in this neighborhood. And so adding additional hardscape is going to increase the water issues.
But we're not really considering additional hardship tonight. It's really, the before us is the 25-foot encroachment.
Correct, and the closer those structures get to the Mason Brinks property, the more problems the Mason Brinks will experience.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Got it, thank you.
And actually, for the homeowners, again, as originally stated in the opening remarks, the water runoff, any problems in the neighborhood, as stated, is vague and not necessarily specific to this property, so we can't fix all of the property issues. We can only mitigate our own water runoff for the house, which this addition will do. Currently, all of that water drains on the surface and runs directly to the house. We will be mitigating all of the water at that corner and redirecting it underground. The driveways proposed will have subsurface drainage along it as well, again, to properly route the water. This should create a better scenario, and also, too, with the elimination of the driveway off Mission, technically the cars are further away from the house than they would be if they pull onto the existing drive from Mission now. The existing garage does not encroach any more than the existing decks that are built there right now, so we don't feel like we're changing the dynamics of what is already there. If anything, we're just adding permanence to it in a more aesthetic manner with the materials. Instead of decks, it's just going to be materials matching the main home.
Mr. Stafford, Mr. Evans, slight clarification on the driveway. Are you talking about putting in a porous pavement to eliminate the runoff? You mentioned drainage under the driveway.
No, there would be a stormwater engineer that would be involved, and I apologize, the watershed deal, that was brought to us, I think, today. And so we would have been prepared with that, but we will obviously, hire a stormwater engineer to provide all of the drainage calculations and designs to prove that we are not affecting the neighboring properties with our water runoff, that we're actually positively affecting it.
Okay, and that potentially could be a porous pavement to mitigate the runoff.
Yes.
Ms. Downs, do you have any questions?
No.
Ms. Burlow?
Well, I have one. So it looks like the majority of the issue with the variance application is the third car garage part. Was there any, I assume you looked at all different options, and if there was maybe some sort of compromise you guys could have come up with the neighbors to allow less of an encroachment.
Sure. We did actually talk, or the homeowner did talk with the gentleman and did receive a conceptual approval for it. And so therefore the project proceeded based on that.
Yeah, I guess I would add to that. We did, and this is the first I've heard there was a concern. Matt went through all the drawings, offered if there was a concern to please let us know, so had thought that they were okay with this design until tonight.
And that third car garage, there's a deck there right now, right? Is that, just so I can understand?
Can I speak to that statement, please?
Okay.
Great. Excuse me. Thank you. I do not want to get into a he said, she said. I don't like confrontational, hearings, and especially in front of city boards. But I will say there was no approval given by the neighboring property owners. In fact, there was the promise for additional plans and continuing discussion. I think that we want to be completely upfront and honest. I think there have been a few things that have been misrepresented, and so we want to make sure that we are presenting the Mason Brinks position correctly and let you know that there will be an adverse impact on this property. Without building plans, without anything else to go on, construction plans, we don't know what this looks like. We don't know what happens with drainage or anything else. What we know is it's very close to the property. It's closer than it should be. There's a 25-foot setback, and the neighboring properties should be held to it. Do you have any questions of the property owner to the north?
Just, well, in looking at this and having gone to the ground and looked at it, their house is very close to the property line also, and that's the way when it was originally built.
Right.
That's correct. I mean, and it's existing for both parties that your client couldn't add on to the back of their house at this time without, I mean, it looks like it's only a few feet away from the property line. Extremely close.
Yeah, and they would have to come through this process, and you all would sit and look at the factors and see if all 5 factors would be met, and if you found that the impact on the property owners to the south were negative, then you wouldn't grant the variance. So, I think the process is the same.
Absolutely.
And these properties were built a long time ago. They were built when, maybe these things weren't as big an issue, but as people want to use their space differently and want to add on and want to kind of reorient things, these issues do become important. And I think that's why these bulk regulations, the height regulations, the setback regulations, all of those things are so important. That's why we ask you to take this very seriously and take a look at all 5 of these factors.
Thank you. Mr. Mason-Brink?
I'm R.C. Mason-Brink, the property owner to the north, as well as my wife. And I did meet with Mr. Renz in early December, but in no way did I agree or consent, and I thought that we were going to receive all the specific plan sheets, but I had to come up to the city to get them, which I did here in January after we received the letter. And the other points that I would make is I have no idea how the new driveway is going to come in without existing trees, not only the one tree that was referred to by Winco, but the other trees down closer to the house. I think you would need more information, more detailed information on how you can configure that driveway coming in without removing very mature large trees that do block our house. And the other significant point that I would state is if you can look at the elevations, it's 910 up there in the front yard and it's 890 down by our house, so that's a 20-foot drop. And that is a significant concern with respect, as Shannon pointed it out, to the headlights coming down as well as the water runoff.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make, if I can add, I wanted to make clear, we are not looking at trees tonight or the driveway. Those are not the purvey of this, this Board of Zoning Appeals. That the issue before us is the construction of that 3-car garage and decks and the 25-foot rear setback. So.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman.
Yeah.
Chair,
Yes.
if I could also read the letter that Ms. Marcano provided. It was another comment. My sincere apologies that I can't find it in my packet, but for the public record. It is from Susie Aaron and Joe Levin at 5525 Mission Road. They are neighbors of the Mason Brinks who are in opposition to the above application cited. The residents at 3600 Wyncote, in their letter dated February 1st, 2022, stated they are requesting a variance to the setback requirements The applicants made reference to the fact that their existing house or attached structures are already encroaching in the minimum setback. We feel that continuing to encroach is not justified and a variance should not be granted. We have reviewed the project plans and note that part of the project that is the subject of the application for a variance includes a new driveway leading from Wyncote downhill towards the Mason-Brink Combe in a manner that would expedite water flow in the event of a normal rain event. In addition, the elevation and direction of that driveway would lend itself to headlights pointing directly into the bedroom or other living space of the Mason-Brink residents. Fairway has an ordinance that addresses light pollution, while not specifically citing this situation, carries the same intent. The Mason-Brinks feel that this project, if completed as planned, will adversely impact their property values. We share their concern and plan on attending the meeting in support of their opposition. I will note they're here if they care to address further, but okay. Ms. Marcano just handed me another letter. This is from Nancy and Alan Stark, 5600 Mission Road. Members of the Fairway BZA, we are writing to express our concern with the variance request for 3600 Wyncote. We came before this board several years ago with our concerns about a previously proposed circle driveway. It was not approved. Our thoughts about the proportion of pavement to green space in the front yard is unchanged. Of the 9 homes that open to Wyncote Lane, all are on what might be considered estate-sized lots. They range from 30,000 to 89,000 square feet. Adding a large circle drive in this small front green space will block the lovely exterior of the home. The proposed addition to the back side of 3600 Wyncote Lane will completely alter the view for the Mason-Brink family. Also, having lived here for 30-plus years, we can attest to the importance of green space for water runoff. The water coming down Mission Road towards the creek can be immense, also the water coming down from Wyncote Lane. I will note in the, she references that this semicircular driveway was not approved before. Just in case anyone is curious about that, it did come before the BZA, I believe, in 2020. The reason it was a variance was because it was a semicircular drive that was not connected to another driveway and oriented to a garage. And right now on the proposed site plan, it is a legal driveway because it is oriented to a garage. But I just wanted to clarify what was mentioned in that letter. And if you will give Assistant City Clerk Abby Aldridge a minute, she needs to see if there's anyone on the Zoom attending the public hearing that wishes to speak. So if anybody is attending via Zoom, please use the raise hand option.
Several people.
Okay. Chair, I will note that no one is raising their hand. More than likely, they are waiting to get in on the PC meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify at this time on these matters? Yes, ma'am. Can you approach the podium?
If you could pull up our map again. Currently, we have 2 driveways. One was existing, one we had put in. And there's parking lots. There's about 4 parking spaces. Those parking spaces actually today face into the Mason-Brinks house. So I'm not sure why the issue seems to be more car lights. At our house, there are 2 people that live in our home. And so there's not really going to be a difference in traffic than what there has been currently. They currently get the lights in their window because of the way, as you saw with their map, their house is angled. So, and right now, like, I just want to point out again, our deck currently sits exactly where the garage would be. There's nothing different other than we're making more green space. And I love our lot. Love our lot. We don't want to take out more trees than we have to. And if anything, we're adding again to where your driveway is, we're adding more green That's it.
Thank you.
And this is Anna Kerselich. Just to clarify again that the variance requested applies to the addition. So the driveway itself is subject to staff approval, and as such, that is a decision that can be appealed to this board. However, that is not an issue tonight.
Once again, is there anyone else who wishes to testify regarding this matter? Okay. I see no one raising their hand or signaling they wish to testify, so at this time we close the public portion of this meeting and we go into our discussion to decide what we think as a board about this. And so, Ms. Berlau, I will let you start.
Oh, this is a hard one. I think right now, the way things have been presented, they fail to meet the criteria for the variance. Pretty much on all. I think the biggest thing for me is the neighborhood considerations. It's going to adversely affect the neighbors. And the homeowner said that there's only 2 people in the house. So I have a hard time with the hardship with the addition of a 3-car garage. And it's not, they're not essential. The addition isn't essential to the home. It's just extra living space. So I will say no.
Thank you. Ms. Downs?
Well, it is difficult. I do think that the lot is unique and exceptional, but the opposition by so much of the neighborhood concerns me. So I would say that they don't meet that criteria.
Thank you, Ms. Downs. Mr. Stafford?
Well, being a new board member and trying to understand the interpretations of the 5 criteria, that being said, I guess I don't feel that it's a hardship for denying this. So I think I would, with my limited experience, vote not to approve the variance.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Okay, Mr. Huffman.
Yes, I would agree. It appears to be no, and especially number 2 and the, affecting the adjacent property owners, the encroaching into the 25-foot setback appears to negatively affect the adjacent property owner. So I would be a no vote.
And that leaves me, and this is why we get paid the big bucks. And I have to agree with my fellow board members. This is extremely hard, but neighborhood opposition is something that's important to me. That's why I got involved in these things, because of things that were happening in my part of our neighborhood. We're all neighbors. I love all my neighbors. I love this town, but I think that we need to send this back and take another look at this. So at this time, I would like to go ahead and take a formal vote of the council, unless you have something else you wish to add.
The motion would be needed.
Okay, that's right. We do need a motion. Who is wanting to make a motion?
I move that we deny the application.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, at this time, I will.
Do you want me to take a roll call, Chair?
Yes, let's take a roll call vote.
All right. Board Member Huffman?
Aye.
The vote is, or the motion is to deny the application.
Right. I'm an aye to deny the application. I agree with the motion. Yes.
Okay. Board Member Stafford?
I am an aye also.
Board Member Berlau?
Aye.
Board Member Downs?
Aye.
And I
And
know
I
we
also
switched.
say Al. now. I say aye.
Board Member Veeder-Enders, okay.
Yes.
So it is unanimous, the application is denied.
Do we have any other business tonight?
We have no other additional business. The next meeting date is March 28th. The deadline is today. And Abby, I do not believe we've received anything. I do need to double check because Basil Alani is out of the office. And so I got to make sure that nothing came through his email that we didn't get copied on. But other than that, we would just need to motion to adjourn.
And I would entertain.
I move we
So moved,
adjourn.
which is,
And the second?
I think Board Member Downs seconded, I believe.
No, I moved.
She
Oh, you moved, okay.
moved,
All right.
and
And I don't think we need roll call.
no.
Motion's been made and everyone can, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
All right, thank you.
I gotta go.
Somehow we made it.